You ever think about how one single act of friendship could, literally change the world? I'm not talking about some huge, grand gesture. I'm talking about something as simple as saving one voice, one story, that ends up touching millions. Well, we're about to dive into a story that proves exactly that. Just let that sink in for a second. An entire literary legacy, just poof, gone. A voice that would go on to help shape modern Indian literature, completely silenced before it even got a chance to speak. It all came down to one moment, one single decision by a very, very influential person. So whose story are we talking about here? Who is this unknown writer whose entire future was hanging by this one super delicate thread? All right, let's unravel this thing. Okay, so our story begins with this young guy, right? He's full of ambition, but he is facing what feels like this massive, impossible wall of doubt from everyone around him. Let's set the scene. We're talking 1930s India. This is a time of huge change, a ton of cultural collision, and it's right here, in the middle of this really complex world of the British Raj, that our main character is just trying to find his voice. And here he is. His name is Rasipuram Krishnaswamy. At this point in our story, though, he's a total nobody. Just a young man who is absolutely passionate about telling stories, writing every single day, just hoping that someone, anyone, will finally notice. Now here is where it gets really interesting. This is kind of the core paradox of his whole life. He chooses to write his stories in English, which, was the language of opportunity, but it was also the language of the colonizers. But get this, he had actually failed his English exams in university. He was in love with a language that, at least on paper, did not seem to love him back. So yeah, because of this, he was really struggling. I mean, nobody took him seriously. His stories, which were all about the simple, everyday lives of people in this fictional South Indian town, were just brushed off as being, well, too simple. The very thing that would later be called his genius was at first seen as his biggest weakness. And the biggest problem? He had zero connections. No way to even get his foot in the door with a publisher.
But you know how these stories go. Every great story has a turning point. And for Rasipuram, that turning point was an entire ocean away, in the famous halls of Oxford University, where a friend was about to offer a little glimmer of hope.
He had one guy in his corner, just one. His friend, Kittu Purna, who was studying over in England. While everybody else back home saw failure, Kittu saw pure talent. He was literally the only person who actually believed in the magic of what Rasipuram was writing. So the two of them come up with a plan. And it's a plan that's both ridiculously simple and, frankly, insane. Rasipuram would mail his manuscript all the way from India, Kittu would read it, and then, somehow, he was going to find a publisher for it in London, the absolute heart of the literary world. I mean, talk about a long shot. And so, this incredible journey began, not just for a book, but for the hopes of two friends who just dared to dream against all the odds. I mean, can you just picture it? A single handwritten manuscript, traveling by ship for thousands and thousands of miles. This thing wasn't just paper and ink. It was trust. It was hope. It was the unwavering faith that one friend had in another, all bundled up and sent across the world. And this is where our story comes full circle. This is where we connect that manuscript's epic journey all the way back to that what-if question we started with. It all came down to one final, crucial connection. So Kittu Purna, true to his word, does the impossible. He doesn't just find a publisher. No, he manages to get that manuscript into the hands of one of the most respected and influential writers in London at the time, a man named Graham Greene. He was the big writer from that opening quote. And you know what? Graham Greene loved it. He absolutely loved the book. And why? Because in its simplicity, he saw pure genius. He saw this authentic new voice that was capturing the soul of everyday Indian life with a warmth and a humor that was just completely new to English literature. So Greene championed it, and his influence was all it took to get it published. And just like that, Rasipuram Krishnaswamy, the kid who failed his English exams, became the world-famous author R.K. Narayan, one of the fathers of modern Indian literature. All of it because one friend refused to let his dream die. It's just an incredible story, right? And it leaves us with this really powerful question. It makes you think about the people in your own life. Who's your Kittu Purna? And maybe even more important, whose Kittu Purna could you be? It's just a reminder that sometimes the biggest changes in history, they start with something really small, like the simple, profound act of just believing in someone.